just the Alabama OC.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, 502. It is going down. Welcome in another amazing episode of Wake Up 502. I am your host, Rashawn Myers, 96.1 FM, 1450 AM. We are the Big X and Haven. It is the Louisville First pregame show. It is going down. Louisville, Notre Dame. So happy to be here. So happy to be joined by you. We will also have, of course, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Romy Bean. Romy Kelly will be joining us in a little bit. But Haven Harrington, how are you doing?
Man, I'm doing great, man. This football season has been awesome. I mean, not just even Louisville football has been awesome. Like just all of college football with the upsets. James Madison putting up a bazillion points on North Carolina. Everybody knows I hate the Tar Heels, so I was really digging him, dropping that 70 piece on them. Louisville has a great game against Georgia Tech. Our first test of the season. I won't say we passed, right? I'm going to say we passed our first test of the season. So, man, I'm excited. And today we got Notre Dame.
Absolutely.
The Domers taking on Notre Dame Saturday at 3:30. Man, how much more exciting can you get than that, right? What could be better than that?
Hey, I tell you what, man, I am so excited. Absolutely. And, to anybody who had any issues with the fact that Louisville got their first win, to me, it's all about survive and advance. Louisville was playing their third game, their first versus legitimate competition, whereas Georgia Tech had already had two conference games, and that was their fifth game overall. So the fact that Louisville was able to go out there, handle their business, make some big plays, grind out a very physical game versus Georgia Tech, a team that had already knocked off Florida State, and had a couple of, very big games under their belts, whereas Louisville had basically only had Austin Peay and Jacksonville State. Haven. I think that's, the way that they were able to control and dominate that game. I don't think you have anything to apologize for, honestly.
I mean, no, you don't. I mean, Louisville did what we wanted Louisville to do, right? They came out, they had some adversity at first, right? They didn't score on the very first drive they had. Georgia Tech scored first.
Mm-hmm.
We gave a big quarterback run, which everybody was worried about, right? Everybody was worried about Haynes King getting free. Everybody was worried about, could we handle scrambling quarterback? On that first big drive for a touchdown, that's exactly what happened, right? He broke free, got the score. But then after that, we clamped down. He didn't run as willy-nilly as much. We didn't get the sack on him, but we got pressures and hurries and everything else. And, you could see us improve as, like, the game went on. And that's what's most important, right? You saw the defense improve. You saw the adjustments we made. And we did it. We pulled the victory out. Was it the victory a lot of us wanted? We like to see maybe run a little bit more. Running backs average more than 2 yards a carry. But in the grand scheme of things, if you kind of look the way that Georgia Tech played, what Georgia Tech has done so far coming this season, you really can't be upset.
No, not at all. I think that's the whole point, right? Is that you go out there, especially early in the season. I mean, we mentioned it on Gameday 502 out there. A big shout out to the Training Day Fitness Center. Appreciate John Giddens and the folks over there for once again allowing us to come out for the pregame tailgate show. But I was very, very interested to see how the Louisville fans would react, kind of their feeling going into the game. And it really felt like, the first game of the season. Well, the way people were kind of nervous and really didn't know what to expect and really didn't know what Louisville had, it felt like a first game. So, there was still, I think, a lot of unsure steps and kind of unsure situations that the team had got placed in. I really thought that We saw some of those jitters with the offensive line. We saw some of those jitters with the defense as well in certain spots. But I mean, that it really felt like a first game of the season. We're so used to Louisville coming out and having big time opponents and big time opposition early in the season it was a lot different. Having your two kind of layup, kind of what do they call guarantee games? Having those two guarantee games early is a lot different than normally what we got, And of course, last year Louisville opened against this Georgia Tech team in the Mercedes-Benz Dome in Atlanta, and then of course 2 weeks later they were headed to Indianapolis to take on the Hoosiers, up there. So I mean, this was a very different start to the season. Now, let me ask you, Haven, like just in terms of getting things rolling, getting things kicked off, did you like having the two kind of layups and out of the way, and now you basically have 10 straight Power 5, Power 4, difficult games? Do you like the way the schedule set up?
So personally, I would like only one really easy layup in the first one or two games, preferably the first game of the season, but not as easy as Austin Peay. Maybe a Jackson State or somebody else that can give you just a little bit more pushback, that just kind of so you can gauge where your team is at. Because honestly, teams show the most improvement usually between the first and second game of the season. But when your first two games are so easy, there's not too much improvement, to be had until like you get that first test. So I prefer maybe somebody that's a little bit stouter as the first game. Still a win, but a little bit harder win. Something you may have to work for. Somebody's going to challenge you maybe for a half before your depth and everything else takes over. And I like my bye weeks be more in the middle of the season, obviously, versus the beginning, because you got guys get banged up as the season goes on. And that bye week in the middle gives you a chance to kind of reset, focus, heal, and to start that run in the second half of the season. That's
no doubt.
my perfect kind of schedule set up.
Absolutely. I mean, because of that, I think that while normally you get that big improvement from game 1 to game 2, I feel like the improvement for Louisville is going to be a little bit more gradual. Like, I think that they definitely got better in some areas from game 1 to game 2, but I think we're going to see maybe a similar improvement from game 3 to game 4, just because it's like, okay, we went out here, we got these experiences against Georgia Tech. We see where there were some issues and some things where we need to clean it up. Kind of like on the trick play where Kateris Hicks gets called for the illegal chop block. Now, I thought it was kind of a soft call, honestly, for the chop block on the screen play to the tight end Jeremy Johnson, but it was a little low, and that's just one of those things where now we understand the way we need to play that, with the way we need to block that. So moving forward, you shouldn't see that issue again. So it's always better to learn in a loss, and it's always better to learn in a game where, in my personal opinion, Haven, Louisville controlled pretty much controlled everything throughout. Like, I really and truly felt like the Cardinals, it felt like they never lost control of the game. Like, there were opportunities where Georgia Tech came out there and threatened. I think that there were several times where Georgia Tech came out there and tried to make a good game of it and made a big push. That touchdown at the end of the half, which inexplicably, we'll have to get into some of we'll get into more of that in a second, but they made their push. They had their touchdown at the end of the first half, and then of course Louisville gifted them 2 points in the second half with the trip and fall in the end zone by Tyler Shuck. But it never felt like Louisville was out of the control of the game. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah, that's like, even when Louisville was down by 7, there was never any panic that, oh no, we're going to lose the game, right? It was never that. It was always, okay, we'll figure it out. We'll solve the riddle of the Spinks, and we'll be okay. And that's like what happened, right? We made the adjustments. We did what we had to do. We let Tyler Shuck throw the ball. We did what was supposed to happen, and we found a way to win, right? We got a fumble return for a touchdown. That was our first score. Great defensive pressure. Quincy Riley there was able to block the lateral into the end zone, recover it, touchdown. The offense gets rolling, hit a couple of big plays. They hit Chris Bell for a big play. We hit our other wide receiver for the big play deep. Probably one of the greatest catches we've ever seen in Cardinal Stadium. So, we was hitting on all cylinders. The only thing we didn't do was run the ball.
Yeah.
As well we had the first two games. But once again, our first two teams were just woefully overmatched. And there's no way that, you can't expect to have that type of efficiency. We average almost like 9-8 yards a carry, especially as the season, goes on. I'd like to see us run the ball a little bit better. But other than that, we played a really good game. And the best thing about this, right, this was Louisville's first big test of the season. Like, none of the national guys were ever talking about Louisville. Everybody wanted to see what we can do. Georgia Tech is a very well coached team, good wide receivers, a great quarterback, and a solid defense.
Yes.
And Louisville got down, but there was never any panic. You could see the age of the team, the experience of the team. We fought back. We took the lead, even with a couple of dumb mistakes, as you mentioned before, as we gave it a touchdown, right before half. We should have gone to half 17-7. And the spread in this game was completely different, right? But even with that being said, given a touchdown, we were always in control of the game. Even when they got the ball down to the goal line and couldn't punch it in 4 tries, we took over. There was, even with that, there was no doubt that we was able to, that we could match their score and win. And that says a lot about your team and where they are. We have a long way to go. I think there's a lot of things to work on, but that shows that we've come pretty far.
Yeah, and that right there. And once again, you're listening to Wake Up 502 simulcasting with the Louisville First pregame show. It's 970 WGTK as well as 96.1 FM, 1450 AM. Big thanks once again to WGTK for allowing us to be a part of the Louisville First pregame show. But that right there, Haven, is where you get excited. Is because when you can look at a team that still clearly has a lot of room to grow, when you can acknowledge that, see that, and then also still watch them control the game, I think that speaks to the amount of talent that this Louisville team has. I think it speaks to, now I feel like we really know that we have our quarterback. Like, I feel like everybody thought they had their quarterback in Tyler Shuck by the way he played in his first 2 games. By the way, Louisville is the only team in Division I in FCS or FBS that has not thrown an interception yet this year, which is something I did not know. That is wild. That is wild. But, the fact that Tyler Shuck goes out there, handles his business, didn't even really celebrate. That was the only thing about him, is like, he threw a couple of amazing touchdown passes and just kind of threw them and just walked back to the sidelines. I'm like,
and not only that, but it's not the fact that he threw great touchdowns. Literally, the one he threw to Ja'Cory Brooks when he was interfered on, a guy spun him around like a top and still managed to catch the ball and run for a touchdown. Right?
Yeah,
probably one of the greatest catches you would ever see. At least one of the greatest catches I've ever seen in Ellen and Cardinal Stadium.
I've never seen anything like that in my life, ever. I've never seen anything like that. It was amazing. Oh, and by the way, producer Roman, who's going to be joining us soon, did want to mention that we haven't fumbled either this year, which is absolutely true. Louisville has 0 turnovers this year to start the season. So, that's wild. So
that's a vast improvement from last year. A vast improvement from last year.
Yes. It's just, there's so many things to be excited about. And, I know you brought up, Haven, the fact that Louisville had some issues running the ball against Georgia Tech. But the thing that I noticed when I went back and watched the film, because I kind of debated, I was so annoyed with some of the officiating, some of the other things. I was not sure if I was going to go back and actually watch the game. But then I decided, okay, quit being a big baby, go back and watch the game, because there's always things you're going to miss. So when I went back, watched the replay of the game, one of the things I noticed is that Louisville ran the ball really well when Georgia Tech was not committing additional guys to the run. So if you saw Louisville playing against a regular 4 or 5-man front where you're dealing with 4 down linemen and a linebacker, and they're dropping the other backers into coverage things, situations like that, Louisville actually ran the ball really well. We saw Donald Chaney have success early. We got to see Keywan Brown make some nice runs. Georgia Tech really did not stymie the run until they started consistently dedicating 6 to 7 guys into the run defense, because it really felt like Brett Key really wanted to take away something. And he decided, you know what? I don't know if we can take away the passing, so some of the passing options that they have, but let's just try to control the line of scrimmage and not give them much in the run game. And it really felt like Georgia Tech made that decision. And of course, with saying that, it seemed to me, in my personal opinion, that Coach Brom still went out there trying to just, hammer that nail forward, even though the Georgia Tech was stacking the line against the run, because he wanted to just enforce his will. I would have liked to see more passing in those situations. But Haven, you said you liked the fact that they stuck with the run.
Oh, I love the fact that they stuck with the run. And I think you should, even if you can't run, you stick with the run, because that still opens up the pass. Because if they have to commit that many resources to stop your running game, if they got to bring 6, 7 guys consistently to stop your running game, that's 1 to 2 less guys they can't put in the pass coverage, and that you can hit, especially on the skinny crossing routes, which is how they got the touchdown with Bell, right?
Yeah.
That's exactly what he came across the middle on a slow drag, but that middle opened up because that linebacker had to come up to respect the run.
Yeah.
And that's why you keep running the ball.
That's a great call. I mean, we saw that drag route had work a couple times. We saw Chris Bell with the drag route score off of it. We saw Jaden Thompson, who unfortunately went down with the injury. He had a drag route where he came across after they, committed so many resources to the run, and he had a nice gain as well. We saw that drag action work a few times, even with the one that got called back by Jeremy Johnson. It was kind of that same type of action where, there was a lot of effort being put into stopping the run. So that's why people that say, well, I'm really worried about the run game now because Louisville was not really that successful, I just want to say maybe pump the brakes a little bit on that, because there was a concerted effort by Georgia Tech to just kind of sell out to stop the run. So when a team is going to sell out to stop the run, it's going to be difficult, to make a lot of headway in that. But, Brett Key decided he wanted to pick his poison. And I mean, honestly, without a couple of those big penalties that brought back some long, some long touchdowns or some long gains, honestly, it could have been a lot worse than 31-19. I mean,
honestly, if I was Georgia Tech's defensive coordinator, I thought he chose correct, right? Because all last year, that's all Louisville did was run the ball like 80% of the time.
Yeah.
Now this year we're much more balanced, but like if you looked at some of the past film on Shuck from Texas A&M and Oregon, he was prone to maybe not the best decision making. Sometimes he's been known to kind of throw a couple of picks in a game, and he was kind of an unknown, right? Like, he destroyed Austin Peay, but Austin Peay hasn't won a game all year, and they're FCS. So, what could really glean from that performance, right?
Right.
Same thing, Jacksonville State, haven't won a game all year. They've been pretty much blown up anybody. So, what can you really get from Shuck's performance from that? Yes, you can tell he's more accurate than Plummer was. He's more decisive than Plummer was. But against the competition, you really you don't know. But what you do know is that Louisville ran all over everybody last year, and he started this year running all over everybody, because that's how they got you last year. That's how they beat them last year in the, I almost said the Georgia Dome, in the Mercedes-Benz Dome, right? It was our running game and opened up massive.
We knew what you meant, David. We knew what you meant.
Thank you. I almost said it. I didn't say it, but I almost said it. So that's what they had to do, and that's what Louisville did, and that's what Georgia Tech did. They wanted to stop the run. If we can make them run dimensional, that'll give us a shot. Plus, we lost our number 1 wide receiver in Jamari Thrash. No, he's not NFL. collecting
Yeah.
checks. We lost our two running backs from last year. Both of them got drafted. There was only 2 teams that have 2 running backs drafted in the draft last year, and we were one of them. So you
Yeah.
start a whole bunch of unknown guys at running back, and once again, we beat up 2 weak teams, so you really don't know how good we really are running. But if they pick your poison, you will go out running the ball. And
Yeah.
it was a smart move, I thought, but we're just a better team. We know we just have more talent.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I totally agree with you. And that's what really, really impressed me about the way Louisville just kind of, it was a very workmanlike effort. And, I always say that your team is going to reflect the leadership. And I thought that last year Louisville was a team that seemed to always be holding on because that was what was reflected to them by Jack Plummer, is that he was always seemed like a guy that would just be holding on, but seemed to always kind of circle the wagons and make some big plays late. And that kind of became the identity of Louisville, where they wouldn't play perfect, but they would just kind of like a fighter, just kind of grind it out and figure out a way to win. That was the way Louisville won most of their games last year. Well, this year, I feel like Tyler Shuck's attitude, I know that he came in with the reputation of kind of being a gunslinger and being a little wild at times, but his demeanor and the way he's just gone about his business since he's gotten here has kind of just seemed like cold, calculated, take care of my business and get on up out of here. Like that's the way.
That's because he's old.
Yes.
He's an old married man.
Yes.
He's playing like an old married man. That's what he is, right?
Yeah.
But honestly,
doesn't that seem like that's kind of the attitude that this football team is taking on? It's just kind of like, let's go out here, let's handle our business, and then it's Miller time. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
for Tyler, like if you look at his time at Oregon and Texas Tech, one thing he has here that he hasn't had at those 2 stops was a phenomenal defense, right? Mm-hmm. He didn't have a phenomenal defense at Texas Tech. He had a pretty good defense at Oregon, but not like the running game that he has now. So he doesn't have to play hero ball, right? He doesn't. He's not an offense where he's going to be asked to throw the ball 50, sometimes 60 times a game, right? He can just throw the ball 25, maybe 30 times a game, and you can lean on a running tag because you know it's going to be there because you have like 5 good backs that are all interchangeable, and you have a defense that you know can get stops. So you don't have to play hero ball. So it makes the decision-making much easier because you don't have to force into every tiny window. Sometimes just chuck out of bounds. We're like, we'll do this again. We got this.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've loved every decision he's made so far. I can only think back, Haven, to maybe 1 or 2 passes that Shucks ever made that I even had any sort of issue with. Like, literally in 3 games, I can think of 1 or 2 passes where I'm like, whoa. And I remember one. You remember the one? I think it was in the Jacksonville State game where Shuck was seeming like he was trying to throw the ball out of bounds, but didn't get it far enough out of bounds, and the defender for Jacksonville State almost picked it. You remember that play?
Yeah.
Like that was kind of like the only pass where I've had any issue with. So when you're talking about, I don't know how many total pass attempts he's had, but when you talk about a guy who's had somewhere in the neighborhood of, 60 to 70 pass attempts over 3 games, and you're quibbling about 1 pass that he's made the whole season, that's Stephon LaFour's level efficiency. Like, we haven't seen efficiency like that from a quarterback in a very, very long time. I mean, am I wrong about that?
No. I mean, it's just Stephon LaFleur is really, that's a throwback right there because he was literally the most efficient quarterback Louisville has ever had by far.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be nothing for him in the game to throw 8 or 9 completed passes before his first incompletion. And these weren't just dink and dunk passes. This was over the middle, 10, 15, 20-yard passes. So, and Tyler Shuck, we even mentioned that name for as far as quarterback efficiency, it's just amazing.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's probably the closest that I can think of. I mean, just for a guy who's just been perfect in his decision making. Like Stephon LaForest to me was always the standard bearer for for efficiency. Like Louisville's had some guys that have been more talented, guys that have thrown for more yards, had bigger arms, have had more athleticism, and Louisville's had, I mean, we've been blessed with great quarterbacks, but Stephon was always he and Teddy Bridgewater were probably the two most efficient passers of the football that Louisville football has probably ever seen. And Shuck is giving me definitely much more vibes of a Teddy Bridgewater or a Stephon LaForest, than maybe more of a Chris Redman or a Brian Brown. Like he just seems to be so efficient in the way he's doing things. And let's go ahead and bring in the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Romy Bean. He is joining us as well. Roman Kelly. Rome, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. Glad to be here. Can you all hear me well?
You sound great, man. I tell you what, man, I know that we've been going, and Roman, before we hit this first break of the show, let me just go ahead and ask you about Tyler Shuck and your thoughts. I'm sure you have I'm sure you have some thoughts on what you saw from Shuck out there, but his efficiency, Roman, just jumps off the page. Like what did you see from him, and what impressed you in his third start as a Cardinal?
Yeah, so you see his stat line and what he was 13 for 19 or
13 for 19, 269 yards.
It felt touchdowns. Like he had a lot more completions than 13, right? And he technically did if you count the ones that got called back, right? That's why you're feeling like he only completed 13 passes. What the heck? Felt like we were throwing the ball out downfield all the game.
Yeah.
And I think, that's just a test of his ability to move the ball downfield, right? He doesn't throw a lot of incompletes. He doesn't throw a lot of bad passes at all. And when he sees a shot downfield that he likes, he takes the chance and he puts it on target. He puts it in the vicinity for his receivers to make a play every time, and they do. So far this season we've seen. I think Jeff Brom has this way of making quarterbacks really comfortable with what he's trying to get them to do. And it seems like Tyler and Jeff are molding very well in being on the same page with play calling and taking those shots downfield. So I'm confident. I love what I've seen out of Tyler. I think he's a lot better than what we've had in the last, couple years in terms of precision down the field.
Yeah,
so
a long time.
Yeah, you really start thinking it's been a few years. It's more than just, I loved Malik, but he wasn't the most accurate guy downfield every time. But yeah, I love Tyler. He's doing his job. He's doing it well.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I think we can safely say, Card Nation, we got us a quarterback, y'all. And then when you have it right at the quarterback position, especially when you have a coach like Jeff Brom, that gets you excited for the potential of that team. And I tell you what, when we get back, we're going to talk about that team, and we're going to talk about some of the playmakers. I want to know who the fellas were excited about, who really stepped out from the I don't want to say from the shadows, but who really impressed Haven and Roman. You are listening to the Louisville First pregame show, WGTK 970, as well as 96.1 FM. Wake up 502, 1450 a.m. It is going down on a game day Saturday, and we'll be back on Wake Up 502. Okay, now we'll give it a quick little pause. For those of you listening, and Haven, make sure you cut this part out. For those of you watching on the stream, we are taping for the show this Saturday. So that's why we're taking our little break right here. But we're not going anywhere. So hang on.
We're not leaving. So, hey, all you guys on YouTube, don't forget, like, subscribe, comment below. Tell us what you think about UofL, Notre Dame. Give us your thoughts, your predictions. I think right now Notre Dame's have either some lines I've seen it's 5.5 point favorite. Other lines I've seen the 4.5 point favorite. But everything I've seen so far, they're the favorite to win. So tell me, why are they the favorite? Why would you say they're the favorite? Do you think they'll cover? Over unders, I think 47.5 points. Would you get the over, the under? Hey, let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to support the show. Join the Patreon down below. There's the link coming up, scrolling at the bottom. You can either do $2 or $5 a month. But hey, join, support the show so we can keep guys like Romy being employed and keep that fresh haircut he got going on.
Exactly. Gotta love the kids. Gotta take care of the kids.
Yeah.
Kids. All right. So I'm gonna bring us on back, y'all.
Bring us on back.
And welcome back to Wake Up 502. It is going down on a beautiful Saturday morning. 96.1 FM, 1450 AM, Big X Sports Radio, simulcasting on the Louisville First pregame show, 970 WGTK. It is going down here. We are getting you ready for Notre Dame. But before we look forward, we got to look back. We're talking about everything that happened and everything that went down with Louisville and Georgia Tech. Cardinals start out 1-0 in ACC play. Got off to a wonderful start, fellas. Before we left, we were definitely, starting to get into the superlatives. We, of course, had to start out with the signal caller, Tyler Shuck. Number 9 looked really, really good. But now I want to know, who are the guys for you two that, stood out? Who were the guys that really impressed you? I want to know, like, just give me a couple, just your first impressions of people that really stood out. Roman, since you just joined us, I'll give you the baton first. So who are a couple of guys that stood out to you and really impressed you on Saturday?
Yeah, so the first thing that comes to mind, and the stat line he had won't jump out to you, but Jamari Johnson, he just, to me, looks like he is the complete tight end. He can run the routes, he can catch the ball, he can make defenders miss when he does so. He blocks extremely well. He blocks downfield well. You can't really tackle him by yourself. He only had two receptions, but he almost had a very, very big reception downfield where I think they called pass interference on it, right?
That was the one where they called the block below the chop block, and it got called back on the illegal chop block.
That's right, the chop block. But he had the ball. He made a play. He kind of got pushed, at the last second. Still was able to make contact with the ball with one hand, and then at the last moment he wasn't able to haul it in. But he just impressed me again. He's a young kid out there. We thought maybe wasn't going to be around again this season, and he stuck around. He lost some weight. He looks like a real athlete out there. He was the first guy that just pretty much every time he was involved, whether it was a big block or a catch or something like that, I felt like he was noticeable.
Hey, I tell you what, Roman, with Jamari, I will say this. The thing that got me excited about him was just how natural he moves for a guy his size. To be 6'5", 6'6", 260 pounds or so, he moves so effortlessly and he's so fast. Like, even to start the game, you remember Tyler Shuck I can't remember if it was his first pass play or second pass play. Shuck gets the snap, has to wait a second, steps over to his left, then throws a quick one out to the sideline to Jamari. And it was only about a 9-yard completion, but he got up the field so quickly for that 9 yards. And I'm like, man, the way he can move for a guy his size is amazing. So
he had a big play called back, though, didn't he?
He had 2 big plays called back. He had the chop block called, and I want to say there was
he ran across the route.
Illegal man downfield. It was the screen. They called the illegal man downfield because they had to wait to throw the screen because the linebacker backed into his area. So he had 2 big plays that got called back, 30-plus yard completions that were called back because of penalties. So, yeah, his day could have been a lot bigger, definitely.
Yeah, he was one of the main guys. If you're not going to look at Tyler, outside of Tyler, obviously Jacory had a big game, but Jamari impressed me.
He's super. He's super duper. Is there anyone defensive player or anybody else that stood out? You can be defensive player or offensive player. I don't mind.
Yeah, Tremel Logan.
Good choice.
He was doing his thing again. I told you guys that I thought he was going to be. I was assuming he'd have a big game. I was thinking we needed him to have a big game, and he went out and did it.
Yeah. Tremel Logan, his get off, man, is unbelievable.
He was getting all kinds of pressures. I want to say he had a couple tackles for loss on running backs, right? Or I think he had one of the tackles on. It was a design run, so it didn't count as a sack. But he was getting good pressure. When they did run the ball, he was getting off of his blocker quick and getting to a tackle if it was on his side. I liked what I saw out of Tremel pretty much all day.
Yeah,
Okay.
he had at least two tackles for a loss. He may have had more than that, but yeah, he was all over the place. Haven Harrington,
You
what's
know,
your
as always, I'm about to go to my man Ja'Cory Brooks, only because I called him out at the beginning of the season that he was going to have a big season, that this was it. I thought he was going to be the man, and he's proven to be that, right?
definitely?
You know, we all kind of thought Chris Bell was going to take that next step, and he has. I mean, Chris Bell's turned to be phenomenal, like the guy we always wanted him to be. But Ja'Cory he just came in there from that very first game and let you know that he was the man on the field, and it's showing. I mean,
Yeah, no,
that touchdown he caught when that dude spun around like a top,
Doesn't
and he
get
was
any
still
better
able
than
to
that.
catch it and go. It's
The
just
hand-eye coordination, the footwork on that, the concentration it takes.
crazy. It's just
He
crazy.
was
They
a
made it look
highly
easy.
touted receiver. You know,
I've
there are
never
receivers in
seen
the
that
NFL
before.
right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've never seen it. Have either of you, like, I thought the play was over.
Yeah,
I thought the play was over. You know, you see the grab, you see him get spun around, so everybody's cheering because they're thinking, okay, we're going to get this pass interference call. Then all of a sudden, he just catches the ball and runs into the end zone.
then
Like I've never seen that before.
a
Hey,
second cheer goes up too. It was
hey
cool to
man, you know
watch.
what? It was so bad that even the DB that did the pass interference thought the play was over because he had stopped running. Once he spun around, he was like, "It's good." It's like, "Oh, you still running?" Oh,
No, look, honestly, like I've never seen a play. It was so weird. Like it just, I don't even know how to describe it, but it was almost like everybody just kind of stopped. And for that half a second, it's like, okay. And then it just all of a sudden the ball, it was like everything just froze. And then you just see the ball drop and he catches it and just runs like that. That was definitely, in my personal opinion, the highlight play of the game. Like that. That was just unbelievable. It was unbelievable. Ja'Cory, you know, they always talk about, you know, those Alabama athletes, quote unquote, and how, you know, the Alabama guys, you know, that they're the real deal. Well, Ja'Cory Brooks
what's the
is
real deal?
just, yeah.
He was
Yeah.
the real deal.
I don't know if we've ever had one of those, you know, honestly. I don't know if we've ever had one of those. So, no, it was impressive. Yeah,
I'm trying
he's
to
different.
think. I'm trying to think.
Who else?
When was the
Who else you
last
got?
time? When was the last time we had a transfer that
Oh,
just blew up immediately?
Deion Branch.
Branch. That's what I was about to think of. Deion when he transferred in.
Yes. You talk about a transfer wide receiver. Deion Branch, and I'm sorry, Deion. I know you're out there listening somewhere, and I'm not trying to give anybody a title yet, brother, because you are still the greatest impact transfer in the history of Louisville football, in my personal opinion. But Ja'Cory's trying to come for your title. I will tell you that. So
He
Deion, you just
is.
Better be careful.
you better be careful, man, because Ja'Cory is looking like something different. I mean, even though Jamari Thrash came out and looked good, but I think Haven, this goes back to just the fact that what we talked about. When you have a quarterback that's able to throw the ball on time, on target, he's not hesitating, he's not taking extra pats to the football. It helps to make your receivers look a lot better. You know, when those guys are running those routes and that quarterback can hit that window in stride, you don't have guys having to turn around for the ball or dive to get the ball, and they're able to catch the ball and actually continue to complete their run. I just think that makes all the difference in the world.
It does. It does make all the difference for him, and he's seen it. Now, you asked me for my defensive pick. I'm going to go with Des Taylor on the defensive lineman. Man, he was everywhere.
Yes.
Everywhere. He's one of the reasons that Georgia Tech could not run the ball against us. He had zero running game, and he was just a man amongst boys.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. No, Des Taylor and Renee Conga both, and congratulations to Renee. He was actually on the Pro Football Focus Team of the Week. He was the Player of the Week for the defensive tackle. Apparently,
Yeah,
he was so Renee Conga was doing his thing. Des Taylor was right there. I sent a tweet out earlier this week, and I said that once I went back and did the review of the game, I said that foursome of Ashton Gelati, Tramel Logan, Des Taylor, and Renee Conga, they look like the new Louisville fearsome foursome out there because they absolutely dominated.
It's a dominant unit. It is.
Yes. I mean, and that's not counting Thor Griffin. That's not counting, any of those other guys that are getting in there and making big time plays. But I mean, that first starting unit just controlled the line of scrimmage. Jamal Haynes is a very, very good running back for Georgia Tech. And Roman, we had talked about it when we had discussed kind of the keys to the game. You had called me or early in the week. We kind of talked about it on the show. That a lot of what Georgia Tech likes to do, they set up off of Jamal Haynes being able to go out there and pick up 5, 6, 7 yards. So you're playing second and short
down situations.
Exactly. And I think that Conga and Tell especially both did a great job of keeping Georgia Tech in those 2nd and 8, 2nd and 9, 2nd and 7, 3rd and long type situations, so they could never really utilize that play action game and get that going. I think that was a big part of why Louisville was able to dominate out there. But I tell you what, like for me, I would say for the people that really stood out to me, I would want to say, we talked about Ja'Cory, we talked about Jamari. I would honestly say the offensive line. I liked what they did after showing.
Okay, stop.
Yeah,
stop. You always get on me when I pick out whole units to go pat on the back. And here you go talk about the entire offensive line.
Well, okay. Can I say everybody on the offensive line besides Mendoza?
No, you gotta pick one dude.
One guy on the line. I mean, the line is always a unit, right? Like the line is always a unit. If one guy's not doing their job on the line, then the whole line looks bad. So it's kind of hard to pick Mills or pick one guy, not Niagara or one of I can't pick one guy. So I'll pick an individual guy. All right, fine. I'll pick an individual player, but I'm gonna just say this. I am glad to see that the offensive line did a lot better in pass protection this game versus, people had questions about what happened, because we saw Austin Peay go out there and get some pressure because they were basically blitzing everybody and their grandmother every time Louisville snapped the ball. And we saw some of that similarly when they played against Jacksonville State, where Jacksonville State did a lot of all-out blitzing. I wanted to see how the offensive line would stand up and do when, that you didn't have a team that was just pinning their ears back and just blitzing every time. So, I had to give the offensive line a shout out for that, Haven Harrington. So calm down, relax. I'm going to pick a player, but I just wanted to give the offensive line because they did impress me. I wanted to see how that pass protection stood up because I do think that that's going to be a big key against Notre Dame is that pass protection. If they can give Shuck some time, then I think they can make some things happen in the secondary because I know Notre Dame has one really good cornerback, but I don't know about those other guys. So I did want to give them a shout out. But I do want to give a shout out to the other guy that we talked about, and that's Chris Bell. Chris Bell is a guy who came in here. People expected him to take that next step. He was a wide receiver that Jeff Brom early on in fall camp, came out and made a point to call out saying we need to see Chris Bell make some plays. It started last week when he had the great post pattern that he caught for a touchdown. He came out, had another excellent touchdown in this game against Georgia Tech. He only had a couple of catches. He had 82. He had 2 catches, 82 yards, and a touchdown. And I just thought that he ran clean routes. And when he got the ball, the thing that I liked about that touchdown, Haven Harrington, is that as soon as Chris caught that touchdown, as soon as he caught that reception, brother was gone. I mean, I don't know if he was that fast last year. He definitely seems to be in better shape. That's one of the things that I was really impressed with him was his explosiveness. It just seemed like he can hit that next gear now. So even though he's a bigger guy, I mean, he's 6'3", 220, even though he's a bigger receiver, he seems to have kicked in an extra gear. Like Roman, did you see some of that out of him?
Yeah. It's like I don't even know where it's coming from, but he gets a harder dig into the ground now. He runs a little bit harder after the catch, I think is what it is. And he's also just a little bit quicker off of his line. He creates more separation out of his release now than he did last year. I've noticed that. Off the line, he looks like a little bit harder to deal with than he did last year. I feel like his release movements, his pre-route jukes that he would do, none of that stuff ever worked last year. I feel like this year, granted it's only been 3 games, he's having a lot more success with his release off the line and his route running.
Yeah,
he's just quicker. He looks quicker.
He definitely looks quicker. And like I said, I don't really know what to attribute that to, but he just, Chris Bell, just that explosiveness. That was very, very impressive.
We need that, Rashawn. You lose Colin Lacey, you already know that your role in the receiving unit becomes a lot bigger now. You have to fill that role. I think he's done a good job, but I still want to see a little bit more, right? I still want to see you get open. I want to see you open almost every time downfield, right? When you're not getting the most attention, you're going to get the better DB is going to get put on Ja'Cory. You know what I mean? So I want to see some things that I want to continue to see this out of Bell.
Time to step up.
But I love the yards after the catch out of Bell, and I love how he's made a couple of defenders miss after the catch as well.
Well, and it just puts more on film that, Notre Dame and your future opponents have to worry about. It's not like you can just say, okay, Ja'Cory Brooks is the only guy that's making plays out there. Now you see Chris Bell jump off the film with his amazing catch. You see Jamari Johnson, make his running catch. We've seen Mark Redmond make some amazing plays. Plus, I have to give a shout out. There was a play in the first half where, Tyler Shuck's looking for a receiver. It was on like a 3rd and 7. He gets flushed out of the pocket. He starts retreating and just throws an amazing pass to Mark Redmond. To convert
over the defender's hand. He put it only where Mark could get it to get the first down. Huge play. That was a huge play. 3rd and long. It was 3rd and long.
Yes, tremendous.
I mean, and it was on Louisville's first drive where they were able to go down and get some points. And the way he was able to find Mark Redmond on that play, Redmond being in the right place, the touch that Shuck put on the ball, that was just an amazing play. Yeah, so that jumped out at me.
Yeah, Redmond had to jump and get it because of where the defender was. But if you put it in the right spot, he was open, and that's exactly what Tyler did.
Yes.
There you go. So definitely. The question is, so how do you think that Louisville's wide receiver core is going to do against Notre Dame's secondary? Because Notre Dame has a pretty good secondary. I mean, they've really put the clamps on teams they played. Now, granted, it's only been Texas A&M.
Yeah, I think they have 3 or 4 interceptions already.
Yeah.
I think that defensive unit does have 3 or 4 interceptions already too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, hey, and before I respond to that, when I do want to give my defensive superlative a shout out, Tavon Nicholson, number 23, defensive back,
big game.
That young man,
huge game.
That young man, he was all over the field. 9 tackles, a tackle for loss. It seemed like he was constantly making hits.
Did he block the field goal? No.
I was Holloway.
Holloway blocked the field goal.
That was Tayon Holloway that got the block. But no, Nicholson was all between him and Tamarian McDonald, those 2 guys, were all over the field. We haven't really seen Ben Perry much. I don't know what's going on with that. Ben Perry has not flashed to me yet, but Tamarian McDonald and Tavon Nicholson, especially Nicholson, those were our 2 leading tacklers. McDonald had 7 tackles. Nicholson had 9 tackles. But those 2 guys being physical with the wide receivers, they always came with an attitude. You know what I'm saying? They always came with some stank on it. Every time those guys came for a hit, they made sure that those wide receivers felt it. So I did have to give him a shout out. He had a humongous game and just really continued to help set that tone for the defense. That was the biggest thing, is that doesn't it seem, fellas, like even when Georgia Tech would make plays, or even when Haynes King made a scramble for a run, didn't it seem like every time our guys got to him, they lit them up and gave them just very physical hits?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but this is a very fast and physical team. That's how Louisville played. Even
We
last
were-
year, we're a very fast and physical team. And that's one thing I like about Ron English's defense. I mean, the first time he was here underneath Cragthorpe, we said the same thing because people in the Ron English to be the head coach. A lot of people forget that. But, yeah, when Cragthorpe was on his last legs, people was like, let's get Ron. He can recruit. And his defense we're playing.
Yeah,
we were lighting Malik Rutherford. Granted, he gave us some work. He has some big catches and some big plays. Every single time it seemed like he had the ball, though, it looked like we were laying him out. Same thing with the running back Haynes.
Yes,
they were laying him out because they laid him out a couple times too.
Yes,
we got a hard hitting unit out there for sure.
I love it.
You have to limit the big running plays from running backs. That is a key. And we're talking. I know we're talking about the Notre Dame defense, right? So we'll get into the defending the Notre Dame offense, but
yes,
yeah.
No, I'm with you. I mean, I just, that was something that really stuck out to me and that I loved, is that it seemed like they came out there. I was listening to NFL Network, NFL Pregame. Westwood One does their pregame show on Wednesday before the games kick off, and they were talking to Mike Singletary. And of course, everybody knows Mike Singletary, Monsters of the Midway, that 85 Chicago Bears, monstrous defensive unit. And the one thing that always just jumped out to me that he said during that interview is, he said, every time we came into a game, he said, the thing about being a defensive player is that our mindset was, we want to inflict as much pain as possible on the other team, because that pain is something that sticks with you. So he said, we wanted, every time we had a chance for a hit, every time we had a chance to make something happen, we wanted to make sure we were inflicting maximum damage on our opponents. And like that Louisville defense brings some of that attitude. Like every time they went out there, it seemed like they were trying to set a tone and a tenor for the game. It's like, at some point, you're not going to want to do this anymore. And I love that. I love that aggressiveness. I love that viciousness, because Haven, you got to have that, don't you? Like that's got to be a hallmark of any great defense, right?
Definitely.
It has to be. No, definitely. I mean, you gotta let people know you were there. There's not too many teams that have finesse defenses that make it to championship games. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah. Now, I know we only have a couple of minutes before the top of the hour, and we're going to get done with the topic of looking back. But I do want to know, just in regards to, was there anything that were like the glaring weaknesses, just at least one each, from something that kind of gives you pause, or that you guys are worried about heading into this Notre Dame game?
I'll let you go first, Haven.
Okay, for me, it would have to be giving up big pass plays. There was way too many times that we had broken coverages and guys got free. Like right before the half is a big one, where let the guy get free for down to the goal line. You literally got like seconds left to go before they have, and he give an easy touchdown, right?
Devin Neal, you can call him out by name. Devin Neal, what were you doing? Falling for a play action fake, and you're 30 yards off the line, getting sucked up 10 yards, and allowing Singleton to get behind you.
The fastest player in the ACC.
Ridiculous.
To get behind you. So that and a couple of times in the second half, we just kind of lost coverage, especially on the tight end, and he killed us right down the middle every time. And that middle of that defense for pass plays was just open, and they hit us several times down the middle. You got to get that squared away. Maybe not for Notre Dame, because I don't have any faith in Leonard Riley to to hit that consistently. But when you talk about going against Cabe Kupernick, would I do this with Clemson and Miami? Now those guys have the arm talent to exploit all that. and they got the receivers to exploit all that. So that's something I'm concerned about. We need to clear up. But other issues I had at the beginning of the season, I'm seeing a lot of progress on those. I was concerned about us, with our blitz pickup. We got much better offensive line
Yes.
at blitz pickup. So Shuck isn't getting hit as much anymore. But really, that's about it. Really, man, got to limit those big plays. Get tight on that secondary coverage. I thought the secondary was going to be the strength of this defense, and it's wound up being okay.
Yeah, definitely. Rome, what about you?
Yeah. Containing the QB runs. That is 2 games now we've seen different, obviously much different philosophies. Tyler Huff, they were not really designing a lot of runs for Tyler. Tyler is just a fast, scrambling quarterback who gets out of the pocket when he knows he needs to, and that kept happening because of the pressure we kept getting on him, right? But because he had some legs on him and because the linebackers' positioning wasn't always where it needed to be throughout that game, he was able to get 6-7 yards every time he did take off, right? And then you look at this past Saturday with Haynes King. Granted, he didn't go crazy like he only had, let me go look here. Haynes King had 14 carries for 58 yards, right?
Yeah.
But he had a long of 26, and that wasn't the touchdown run.
Yeah.
He had 2 big runs, 2 explosive runs, and then he had a couple design runs where he was able to go get those 6-7 yards, right? Because we were kind of winning the battle in the trenches. Jamal Haynes wasn't able to, really take off like he would want to from the line.
Yeah.
But when Haynes King did want to, he was able to. And now you're going in next week to a quarterback who can do that even better than Haynes King can, and Riley Leonard, right? Now, I think Haynes King's a better passer than Riley Leonard, though, right? So I think he had 2 really great, like Malik Rutherford's an elite weapon. Then they have chemistry. It's a little bit different, but there's going to be some design runs from Riley Leonard, and I want to ensure that we can contain those. If we can stop them from having momentum, like high momentum drives, they're not going to be able to put a lot of points up on us. I think our defense is going to be able to stop those if you can contain the big runs, right? I'm going to think that, while Haven is right, we have given up a couple big plays. They were just on mistake. They were on mistakes, right? I don't want to say that obviously you're going to give up big plays on mistakes, but if you can limit the mistakes, I don't think we have matchup issues with anybody on Notre Dame's, any of their receivers really. So if you contain Riley Leonard, you contain Riley Leonard, you contain their other running back. I forget Love, I think is his last name. Keep those guys from, going out there and getting 6-7 yard pops every single time they put their feet, every time Riley Leonard puts his feet on the ground, and then every time they hand it off, you can't give up the big explosive runs. If you can do that against Notre Dame where you prevent those, they don't have a route of putting a lot of points up on the board. They haven't even scored 30 points, and they've only scored more than 30 plus in 1 game this season. It's not it's not some crazy high up tempo offense that's going to get downfield every single time they touch the ball, right? You can stop them, you can make them punt. They punted 4 times and they had 2 turnovers, and against who was their last game?
Miami of Ohio.
You punted 4 times and you let them take it away twice. So if we can kind of, have some aggression on defense and keep them from gaining a lot of momentum, I don't see them putting a lot of points on the board. And I think that Tyler's going to go out there and keep doing his thing. We have to get the running game back up and running, though.
Definitely. I totally agree with you. And with that, we will go ahead. We've hit the top of the hour. Number 1 is in the books. When we come back, it's all about the Irish. We're going to start breaking down University of Louisville heading up to South Bend, taking on the Irish, the Golden Domers, 3:30 on the Peacock. So if you're out there and you're listening, people, okay, let all the old school Cardinal fans that don't know anything about the internet, let them know the Peacock Network is the only way to watch. So you guys get out there and share all your passwords because you're going to need it. This is Wake Up 502. Rashawn Myers, Haven Harrington, Roman Kelly, and we'll be right back. Good first segment, fellas. First hour.
Man, the Peacock Network, a travesty. A travesty to have two ranked teams only on the Peacock Network.
Yeah, they kind of dirty for that, man. But they're trying to get subscriptions up. They're trying to get their subscriptions up. They were Mike was fussing about talking about man, they should put a crappy game on the Peacock. I'm like, no, you don't want to put a crappy game on the Peacock because you ain't gonna get
You
no
know what?
subscription.
I wouldn't say put a crappy game on the Peacock Network, but you at least want to put a game that's not between like two ranked teams.
Two top 16 teams. Come on.
The Peacock Network.
I know.
Like the Peacock Network should be like NIU, right? When they did Northern Noah and Ohio.
Hey,
That's
don't
Peacock
forget,
Network game.
they put the Chiefs and the Dolphins playoff game.
You see, that's like what I'm talking about.
Streaming only. I mean, that was a playoff game, and that was like the biggest game of the weekend, wasn't it?
Everybody mad. And everybody was still mad.
But that's what I'm saying. They trying to get them subscriptions up, man. You know what I'm saying? Got to make that money. All right, let's go ahead and bring back hour number 2. I'm gonna go ahead and hit it right now. And welcome back in hour number 2. It is going down on a wonderful and exciting Saturday morning. If you are listening to the sounds of our voices, everybody is getting up and getting ready. Cardinals taking on the Irish, 3:30 p.m. Peacock Network. You are listening to Wake Up 502. Rashawn Myers, Haven Harrington, Roman Kelly here, 96.1 FM, 1450 AM. This is the Big XWXVW, and we are getting you ready and counting you down to kickoff. Of course, fellas, we were looking back at everything that happened when Louisville took on Georgia Tech. Now that the Cardinals are 1-0 in the ACC, 3-0 overall, this was the mission. Okay, the mission was get through these first 3 games unscathed, figure out what we had at the quarterback position, figured out what we had, with these playmakers, and figure out if the defense was really as good as what we hoped they would be. I feel like we got answers to, just about all of those questions. Now, of course, Louisville is heading into this game. They are not healthy. Unfortunately, Jaden Thompson, we lose him for the season to a knee injury, an ugly knee injury at the very, very end of the game. I hated to see that. He's not going to play. There's some other guys dinged up. Maurice Turner, of course, was out last game. I don't know if he's going to be able. I know they said he's going to be kind of a game time decision. Colin Lacey, a guy who actually warmed up during the Georgia Tech game. Coach Brom said he's going to leave it up to Colin if he plays or not. Like, I feel, fellas, like they had to hide Colin Lacey's helmet. Some people said they had to hide his helmet last game to keep him from just going in into the Georgia Tech game. So if they leave it up to Colin Lacey, Haven Harrington, do you feel there's any chance that Colin Lacey doesn't play on Saturday?
Oh, he'll play on Saturday. Especially since you lose your other main, your target wide receiver for the season. Having what people thought is your best wide receiver on the field gives you just a phenomenal tactical advantage against a very good Notre Dame secondary, right? And the Notre Dame secondary is one of the highlights of the team. Yeah. And if you can match them with Lacey, Brooks, and Bell, that'll be amazing. That'll be like, I believe this will be Notre Dame's probably best test of their secondary against an elite wide receiver unit that they're probably going to have all year.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I mean, I believe the cornerback, Roman, do you know the cornerback's name? The guy who I believe they say is going to be the number 1 pick. He may be the number 1 cornerback taken. I can't remember the young man's name. But is it Gray? Is that the young man who's the top pick? I think it's Gray. Christian Gray. He may be the young man I'm thinking of. I'm looking at the Notre Dame information, but I can't remember if that's the guy who they're talking about taking at number 1. But the good thing is Louisville has more than 1 receiver. So even if they put their top guy on, say, Ja'Cory Brooks, that still leaves the possibility of Colin Lacey. You still, we talked about some of the things that Jamari Johnson was able to do, and then of course what Chris Bell was able to do as well. So it's not like Louisville is one dimensional. Last year, I mean, honestly, it was a lot about Jamari Thrash, right? Like it was Jamari Thrash and not really much of anything else. We had to throw to
Benjamin Morrison. Sorry,
Morrison. Thank you. No,
That's it.
thank you. That's who I'm thinking of. So we might see a lot of Ja'Cory Brooks versus Benjamin Morrison on Saturday. But the good thing is, unlike last year where it seemed like every pass went to Jamari Thrash, there's a lot more of sharing the love with this team, and it seems like Tyler Shuck has done a very good job of spreading the wealth around, which makes you a lot harder to defend.
definitely.
Like Roman, don't you think that's going to play probably a key factor in the game on Saturday?
I do, and I think utilizing the tight ends is what's going to make that possible. When you don't know who the number one option is on any set passing play, it's hard to defend when you can rely on, well, this tight end's coming in, he's not even the first string, and he already has 2 catches on the game. You can't trust anything. It's one of the best things a quarterback can do is utilize all of their weapons, and make things unpredictable. And I think Tyler's done a good job of that. I feel like we've kind of already gotten to know that, he's going to Ja'Cory here, things like that. But you are a much harder offense to predict when you're using all of your targets. And you got second string guys coming in and you're utilizing them as well.
I mean, that was one of the things that I loved about Teddy Bridgewater back in the day, is that, both he and Stephon LaForest, they would just, you would have to have literally the play card to figure out who those guys were throwing passes to, because everybody caught passes. It seemed like, they were always spreading the ball around. And I feel like, especially, when we talk about those two, I think that's a reason why Teddy and Stephon were probably our 2 most efficient quarterbacks ever, right? Is because they just went to so many different weapons.
They had the weapons, but I will say this. You look at Notre Dame's defense, and some of for me jumps out at me watching them is they have good defensive line play. They can get pressure with just their front 4, which takes a lot of pressure off their linebackers and their secondary, which I think some of the reasons allow their secondary to be so good is that they're getting a lot of pressure and a lot of hurries, off that front 4. Sometimes they bring 5, but they're still able to get pressure. And that's, I think, one of the things that Louisville has to watch out for, right?
Running backs got to get open. Yeah, the running backs are going to have to get open.
The running backs will have to get open. Teams, Georgia Tech did get to the Shuck, right? They were able to pressure him or make him to throw the ball sooner than what he wanted to throw, flush him out the pocket. And of course,
Notre Dame will do that.
Concerns.
Notre Dame will do a better job of that even.
Yeah, and Notre Dame's going to do a better job of that. So, this is going to be, I think, a lot of quick passing games. And this sort of running game comes in with draws and screens, things of that nature, to slow down that rush. And we'll just have to see. I think Notre Dame's going to be in a good position with their defense to probably slow a lot of things that we want to do down. I think they may be able to hurt our running game without having to commit so many resources like Georgia Tech had to slow us down. So I think that, would be interesting. I think this actually can get kind of ugly, like an old school Midwest Big Ten-esque battle. Maybe not 3 yards in a cloud of dust, old school Big Ten, but, where the defenses are really going to have to be on point.
Yeah, no, definitely. And you talked about that defensive line, Haven, just to let everybody know that traitor, I don't want to call him a traitor. I love his daddy, Roman Oben Jr., who transferred in from Duke and ended up at Notre Dame along with Riley Leonard. Roman Oben Jr. is on that defensive line for Notre Dame, Haven Harrington. So I don't know how to feel about that. The fact that R.J. Oben could have came here, could have been a part of this defensive line, instead goes to Notre Dame. I love his daddy, but I hope we kick his son's ass.
But Brian Urlacher's son is the safety at Notre Dame.
Yeah, all these kids, everybody's kids is on Notre Dame's team. That's all right. R.J. Oben, we can be friends again on Sunday, but yeah. I ain't gonna talk to. I had an attitude about that when I saw he was transferring from Duke. I had really hoped that R.J. Oben would look to come here. I mean, we retired his dad's number. He's up in the Hall of, he's up in the Hall of Fame. Very accomplished defensive lineman, one of the better pass rushers, pass rushing defensive tackles in the ACC, coming over from Duke. I had really hoped he would look at Louisville, but he sold out, went to the Golden Domers. So Roman, don't take his ass whooping personally, because that's what's going to come for you. So I'll just say that. I'll leave it with that. He hurt my heart, Haven.
But you know what? I'm just going to say he went for the education.
Yeah, he did. As like a fifth-year senior, he's went there for education. Whatever.
He went for the education.
Yeah, well, he went there to lose to Northern Illinois is what he did. That's what he did. So there we go.
Hey, you know what? In that game, the defense did their job. This offense just couldn't move the ball.
I mean, did they really? Like, Northern Illinois had the ball like the whole game.
But the offense didn't help.
Well, that's fair. That is definitely fair. That is definitely
it takes
fair.
two to tango, and I think I've been reading a lot of Notre Dame message boards. I've been watching a lot of their podcasts and stuff, and honestly, a lot of people are blaming this entire season on Riley Leonard, their transfer from Duke. He hasn't quite lived up to what they thought that he was going to be, right? They knew he could run.
Well, through 3 games, Haven, he has 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions.
And that's the problem, right? It's
like
they knew he could run the ball, but they thought that with talented Notre Dame receivers, especially more talented what Duke has, that he'll be able to sling the ball a bit more. And
he's a worse passer this year than he was last year. Like, he was better as a passer at Duke last year with his Duke talent than he is with this Notre Dame talent. I don't know if it's scheme related. I'm not really sure what that's about, but he's definitely struggling passing ball. Like, I thought it was a typo. When I saw like his numbers, I'm like, that can't be right. He has 1 passing. I mean, because that was the thing I told Haven earlier. We were chatting, and I said, with the schedule that Notre Dame has played to this point, they haven't really played anybody of note. You would have thought that Riley Leonard would have put up gaudy numbers, kind of like what what's his name from last year, Haven, the quarterback from Wake Forest. Help me with his name. Remember his name?
Hartman.
Hartman. Thank you. You would have thought, because you remember coming into that game versus Louisville, people were really hyping up Hartman because he had started out really, really strong coming into the Louisville game, because he
was
played
getting Heisman shouts, wasn't he?
Yes. Coming into that game, he was, because they hadn't played anybody. He was able to, put up a bunch of stats. He had 9 or 10 touchdowns coming into the game and had all that hype. That's the weird thing, is that this will be the 5th game, I think, for Notre Dame, either 5th or 6th game for Notre Dame. And Riley Leonard only has 1 touchdown pass. I don't even know how that's
I got
possible.
a stat for you guys here.
Okay, what you got?
I don't know if you guys were able to catch the show today, but Matt McGavick sent me some stats yesterday.
Okay.
So I'm going to read this off for you.
Yes.
Of the 45 Power 4 plus Notre Dame quarterbacks with 100 plus dropbacks, right?
Yes.
Riley Leonard has the 6th worst NFL QB rating at 72.9. He has the 5th lowest average depth of target at 7 yards. And he's tied for the fewest, quote, big-time throws with 2. PFF player, fan, whatever that is, defines a big-time throw as a pass with excellent ball location and timing, generally thrown further downfield and or into a tighter window. And both of those throws of the 2 he has came against the MAC schools he's played against. He is scared to throw the ball. He doesn't believe in his own ability to throw the ball. So the coaches don't. They're not taking huge big plays down the field with the throws. They're relying on him and that running back to go get 100 rushing yards a game.
I mean, if you look at it, he's 65 or 103 on the season. He's
like Riley
63% passer.
He's Riley Leonard to the forward pass is like Ben Simmons to the 3-point line. Like, he's afraid to pass the ball. Like, it's very odd. Like, I did not expect for him to be that bad, but 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, and
he's averaging 5.7 yards a pass.
But what does he already have? 6 rushing touchdowns or 5 rushing touchdowns?
Yeah,
yes.
He had against Miami of Ohio on this past Saturday. He had 12 carries for 100 and where's his rushing yard? He had 12 carries, 143 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So I mean,
Yes.
literally, he's just playing like old school, like single wing, like
Wing T and whatnot.
yeah.
I mean,
Like,
that's what he's doing. I mean, look at him. He's averaging 5.7 yards a completion. You already mentioned 1 touchdown. He only has 587 total passing yards, 63.1%. His longest pass went for, not too bad, 38 yards. He's been sacked 4 times.
What'd you just say?
He's just,
Did you just say his longest pass was 38 yards?
yeah.
Yes, that's his longest pass of the year.
And who are the teams he's played against?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Two
what,
MAC
Northern-
schools? You played against 2 MAC schools and you
Yeah.
couldn't get a 40-yard completion?
No.
I mean, it's crazy.
No.
It's just, you would think when you look at the teams that he has played and the schedule that he has played, as inept as he has been, you would think that the Louisville defense, with how well they've played, especially stopping the run, it just seems like the Louisville strength matches up really, really well against what Notre Dame does well. But, you don't really know if that Notre Dame run game can really keep up because they've not played anybody. So
Yeah,
when
it
you
hasn't
play,
seen a defensive line like this.
no. So, I mean, you would think at least from that side of the ball, you would be looking at a good spot. But, of course, that Louisville defense is also dealing with the injury bug because there's a chance that Quincy Riley may not play in this game as well. Riley got dinged up on kind of a freak play on the backwards pass where he batted down the ball and Ramon Puryear recovers the ball in the end zone. Haynes King fell into Quincy's left leg. And right after that, Quincy
He took the big play downfield on him. They went after
he
him.
got burned by Malik Rutherford for a big play, and then he had to return a punt and kind of re-aggravated the leg after that. So I don't know if Quincy Riley is going to be able to go on Saturday, but even with that being the case, that front 7 is definitely going to make it to the game. And you would think that if they can slow down this Notre Dame running game and keep Riley Leonard contained, you've got to think that Louisville's got to be in a good spot. Like Roman, how many points do you think it's going to take to win this game? Like, to me, this seems like, I don't know if Notre Dame can score more than a couple of touchdowns. Do you?
I didn't say this earlier on the show, but today I was thinking, I was looking at breaking down the scores, just how many points they've been scoring per quarter and stuff like that. If they don't get the big plays on us, I don't see them getting into the end zone twice. I don't see it. I don't see them scoring more than 17, 18 points on us, really. If I'm being honest. Now, 2 40-yard runs in a 140-yard run in a series changes that whole series, right? The Love kid and Riley Leonard, they have the second back. The second back is pretty elite too. If you can contain those big runs, Riley doesn't have the arm to get you downfield. So
I mean, and let's not forget that Notre Dame is working with 3 injuries on the offensive line.
Exactly. I was going to point that out. They've got a couple, and 1 or 2 of those guys I think we know aren't playing Saturday. So now there is the off chance, right, where their defensive line is one we haven't seen of that caliber yet either. We, aren't able to get the big plays downfield, at least for first half of the game or so, maybe, until we get adjustments in. Jeff Braun makes great halftime adjustments, it seems like, every single game. There is that chance it is a dogfight, right? Because I know our defense isn't giving up a lot of points to a quarterback who plays like that. I don't have many worries. They don't have a Singleton and a Malik Rutherford, right?
Yeah.
And I trust our trenches to stop the big runs from breaking out. I trust them from breaking away.
I mean, and Roman, you just made a good point there about the halftime adjustments, because think about that. Of course, Louisville goes out there, shuts out Austin Peay in the first game. They give up 14 points to Jacksonville State in the second game. but hold them scoreless in the second half after they go in there and figure out how they needed to shut down that run versus Huff. And in the third game, after giving up, the deep pass, and setting up that second touchdown for the 14 points that they gave up versus Georgia Tech, only gave up 3 points in the second half. And then, of course, Louisville had the safety.
2-point safety,
but,
yeah.
I mean, you're talking about in all 3 games, excellent adjustments to make sure to basically cut the water off for the other team. So, I mean, the second half adjustments have been outstanding.
Yeah,
and this
definitely.
But this is why I said this game could come down to like a defensive squirm, because granted, Notre Dame has only played Miami of Ohio, Purdue, NIU, and Texas A&M. Texas A&M is okay.
Yeah.
But they haven't given up more than 14 points in the game all season.
That's true.
Texas A&M sucks.
They're all right. Texas A&M all right. They're not like...
They're all right, but they held Texas A&M with 13 points, right?
Yeah.
The only team that beat them scored 14 points, which is NIU. Everybody else
16.
is like in single digits.
They scored 16, didn't they?
Yes, excuse me. They scored 16 points.
16 to 15?
They're 16-14.
Okay.
So, like, they scored 16 points.
Yeah.
Texas
Their
A&M
defense,
scored
their trenches
points.
have been working as well. They haven't
the
allowed a lot of
defense been
explosive plays. They haven't allowed many explosive plays all year. Like I said, they haven't seen a quarterback like Tyler or a receiver like Jacory.
Now they've only played in one game. Then that's their 66-7 win over Purdue, where they still haven't scored more than 30 points outside of that game.
Now, I want to point out that Texas A&M only beat Florida by 13 points. They only beat Bowling Green by 6 points.
Here goes Rashawn.
And they let McNeese State score on them. So I do want to point out the fact that Texas A&M hasn't really been impressive after Notre Dame beat them the first game.
Yeah, they haven't had good wins. They haven't had good wins.
But they had wins.
Okay.
Those are still wins.
They barely beat Florida. Anybody that only beats Florida by 13 points needs to go out and get taken out back and shot. Florida's terrible. I mean, let's just keep it real, y'all. Florida's terrible, man. Like
they are.
Yeah,
they're bad.
They are horrible.
They are bad.
I mean, so that's all I'm saying is that, I take very little out of these Notre Dame numbers so far, because I feel like the Louisville offense is like, that's comparing filet mignon to hamburger steak. Like, they haven't faced any quarterbacks nearly as accomplished. They haven't faced a team with nearly the weapons, and they haven't faced a team with nearly the defense that Louisville has. So
with all that being true, and I agree with you.
Yes, sir.
Why do you think Notre Dame is still favored by 5?
Because it's Notre Dame, and they have to have this victory. Honestly, I mean, Notre Dame is they are the tradition. I mean, when is Louisville ever going? Will we ever see a day where Louisville football is favored in South Bend over a Notre Dame football team? I mean, let's just be honest, Hayden.
Yes, we will.
You think so?
We will.
So.
We play them 3 more times before 2036.
No, because like here's the thing, right? And this is why I believe we will.
Okay.
One, we destroyed them last year.
I mean, we should have been a favorite this year, if you ask me. We're ranked higher, and we whooped that ass last year.
Yes, but if we beat them again this year, like we beat them last year, we'll definitely be ranked above them going forward the next time we play. But honestly, I thought like maybe if we played them like in 2004, 2013, with one of those other Cardinal teams, honestly, I think we probably would have been favored.
Not 2013. Maybe a different year. 13 and 14, they were losing to Alabama in the playoff, weren't they?
Well, that's the year we beat up. That's the year we destroyed Florida in the Sugar Bowl. Was 13.
Yeah, thinking 14 was Manti Te'o, and they had the number 1 defense in the country.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
All I know is this: that
it's going to come.
Notre Dame still gets the tradition bump. So, I'm not surprised by it, but tradition and the ghosts of
Newt Rockney
and whoever else you want to bring out there. My cousin Rocket Ishmael. Did you know Rocket Ishmael was my cousin, Haven Harrington?
I did not know that.
Yes, I have Notre Dame blue blood in my family. Now, Rocket Ishmael, former Heisman winner, is my cousin. So shout out to Rocket Ishmael. But it don't
Now you're
matter.
black, so this could be like your fifth cousin removed, and we don't know this. So.
But I don't care. The ghost of Rocket, Tim Brown, Ricky Waters. You can bring out whoever you want. Joe Montana. Ain't none of them people gonna help. Freeman get this win on Saturday. That's what I know.
I think the college football odds makers and all those people coming up with that kind of stuff, I think they're looking at the point differential, right?
Yeah.
This year.
Yeah.
Because of the games played, there's a bigger sample size on Notre Dame's defense right now than ours. You can argue that Notre Dame's defense is better than ours because they've had more chances to go out and show that they can prevent other teams from scoring points.
Yeah, okay? And they got to win over. They got a top 25 win at the end of the day.
They got a top 25 win. Defense is not allowed more than 16 points. The loss to NIU though, it's so ugly. I already feel like it's not getting talked about enough. But those two things there, and then they're at home. It's in South Bend. I think you odds makers are looking at their defenses better than ours. They're probably viewing us as like they haven't played anybody yet because a lot of people are kind of wishy-washy on Georgia Tech now. And then with it being in South Bend, I'm not surprised. I thought it would have been 2.5, 3.5. 4.5 kind of was maybe, the team below us in the poll is a 4.5 point favorite at home, not a 2.5 point favorite. I thought that was a little bit weird, but
yeah,
I can understand it. South Bend, they've already beat a top 25 team. I can get it. I can understand it. Yeah, but when you look at how we beat them last year, the amount of points we've put up on the board this season already.
With the worst quarterback.
True.
Your quarterback hasn't thrown a touchdown yet, or has only thrown one. I don't know. I think the odds makers are looking at the Notre Dame run game and thinking that we're not going to be able to stop it. And if that's why you think they're going to win by 4.5 points, cool.
I mean,
to me,
they'll score. I think they'll score.
Yeah.
I think Riley Leonard get loose once or twice, maybe 3 times.
I mean, this feels like a game, Haven, where tell me if I'm wrong, but this feels like a game where Notre Dame's going to need some help. They're going to need a special teams, a turnover, a fumble, something weird to happen in the kicking game. Like, to me, if Louisville is still, the only team in the nation without a turnover, I don't think Notre Dame can win this game. I like it. Do you think that's a fair assessment, or do you think that's not necessarily fair?
That's more than fair. Because they're going to need that momentum shift to either stop a drive when we're driving or convert a turnover into points. Because I don't see their offense. Like I said, Riley Leonard, running backs, when they get loose, there'll be 1, maybe 2 drives where they run it all the way down the field and score. But I don't see more than that. And they're going to have to find a way to generate points. It's going to have to be off a turnover to do it.
Yeah, because if Louisville goes out and scores 14 points in the first half, Roman, I don't think that might be an insurmountable lead. Like, if they go out and get 14, 17 points in the first half.
And make them punt twice already, to where they've only got 3 to 10 points maybe. If we can go into halftime with a 10-point lead, Braum has a whole half of football he gets to critique and go out there and make adjustments to. I will feel very, very good. We go into halftime with Riley Leonard at 60 yards, Love at 60, 70 yards, and the score's 14-14. I'll be worried a little bit. But we can contain those big runs. They don't have the throwing power to go and beat us. So
yeah,
I think we have the defensive power to stop the run, which makes me, and I don't think they've seen an offensive firepower like we have, like I believe we have, right? I'm not going to say you're not like we're the best offense in the country yet. We've only beat one good team. But even then, I look into that game. If Neal plays that last play on Singleton different, we go into that game up 17-7 with the ball back at the start of the third half.
Yeah.
I think we put them away in the third quarter, and we're talking differently right now. We're feeling even more confident.
And that's not even counting the plays that were called back on penalties.
2 40-yard, 2 35-plus yard completions brought back. It's just, and then the defense, we gave a couple defensive flags as well that helped them get downfield. But
yeah.
Well, I'm feeling good.
Absolutely. Well, I tell you what, let's go ahead. Let's hit our last break of the day. We're already coming towards the close. When we come back, we're going to break down our thoughts on who's going to win the game, players of the game. We want to get Haven and Roman's thoughts on that. We may take some picks on a couple of other games as well for the weekend, and send you into your Saturday the right way as you get ready. This is Wake Up 502. Rashawn Myers, Haven Harrington, Roman Kelly, 96.1 FM, 1450 AM, Big X WXVW, and we'll be right back. Very nice. So for this last one, fellas, we'll have to cut it just a little bit short. Like it'll probably say like a 23 minute, 24 minute segment, I guess, because we went a couple minutes over there.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll do that just to make sure that we can fit it into the confines of time, because I don't want Roman to be in the middle of a great point or giving his picks and just cut straight to the end of the show. That would suck. Roman needs all the time he can get.
I'll try to be quick.
No, you're good. All right, last segment. Haven, are you ready for me to get this thing rolling?
I'm ready to get everything rolling, but before you get everything rolling, I want everybody to know who's watching us on YouTube right now.
Yes.
Who's watching us live. Hey, like, subscribe, and share to all your friends. We need to grow the channel. I need 2,000 subscribers before the end of the football season. Make that happen for me.
Definitely. Hey, and shout out to James and Ashi. I saw y'all's messages on Facebook, so appreciate you guys listening. Thank you for that. So shout out. All right, so let's go ahead and get this thing going.
Let's get this party started.
Yes, absolutely. Get it started right. And welcome back in. Last segment of the show. Wake Up 502, 96.1 FM, 1450 AM. Big X Sports Radio, WXVW. It is the Louisville Notre Dame pregame show. Big shout out and once again to WGTK 970 for the simulcast on there with the Louisville First Radio Network. Thank you so much for including Wake Up 502 in your pregame preparation as the Louisville Cardinals head to South Bend to take on the Golden Domers and send all the Catholics home crying. That's what we're going to do, and I'm not mad about it at all. In the least. So, fellas, all right. So, the last segment, y'all know how we do. We want to go ahead. We want to give some picks. We want to. I know I had promised one of the callers last week that we're gonna give. I was gonna give updated records for the picks. Those will be upcoming, but you'll have to wait till next week because of us doing the earlier recorded show. So get over it. I'll have it for you the next time you hear my beautiful voice. But let's go ahead. Let's start talking about kind of our final analysis before we get into our picks. So just give me your biggest thoughts heading into this game. Haven Harrington, I'm gonna age before beauty, so I'm gonna give you first the first crack at it. I need to know, if you're preparing Louisville, like, what's the game plan? What does Louisville need to do to get this victory?
You know what Louisville needs to do, what they've always done so far this season. Keep attempting to run the ball. Even if they stop it, run the ball, make them keep 7-8 guys in the box, hit them over the top, hit them with play action pass. If you think the pass rush is getting too much for you, that's fine. We got plenty of speedy dudes, plenty of running backs that can catch the ball out of the backfield. Put Isaac Brown on a wheel route, and let's see how fast those guys in the secondary and the linebackers really are. Get a couple of draws. Once again, Kewan Brown, big, powerful guy, runner, pretty quick and shifty. Him on a couple of draws, slow down that pass rush. Once again, play action pass, hit him over the top. On defense, put 8 guys in the box. And like everybody else has this season, dare Riley Leonard to throw the ball over your head. He beats you once or twice, he beats you once or twice. But Brennan Heat, keep him pressure, keep him in the box, keep him in the pocket, make him throw, rush him. If I'm Notre Dame, I will try to hit Tyler Shuck as much as possible. He's not known to be the most durable guy. I'm bringing the heat. I will blitz. I saw against Austin P how Louisville's offensive line really didn't pick the blitz up that well. They did a better job against Georgia Tech. But I believe it's Notre Dame. You got much better defensive line than Georgia Tech. You got one of the best secondaries in college football. Trust them to cover the wide receivers and tight end and bring the pressure. On offense for Notre Dame, yeah, just run the ball as much as you can, right? I mean, quarterback draws. A couple of triple options, and
You're
then
taking the
make
Notre
it flea
Dame
flicker.
offense all the way back. You're taking it all the way back, Haven Harris.
But Ryan Leonard, the way he's throwing the ball, he really limits what you can do. So you're either going to dink and dunk down the field, which still brings everybody up to line of scrimmage. So I guess you can dink and dunk, and every now and then see if you got enough time to take your shot deep.
I like it. Hey, for you, Roman, who are the most important guys on Saturday as we get towards this game? Who are the people that need to step up if Louisville's going to be victorious on Saturday?
Kewan Brown, Donald
Okay.
Chaney Jr., Isaac Brown. And I don't necessarily mean step up, but they got to be on their A game. They've got to be on their A game because you just saw what happens when the Louisville offense doesn't feel like the run's working. They went away from it in the second half, right? It worked out for us, but they went away from it in the second half compared to how many attempts they were given in the first half. Yes. I'm expecting a big game out of at least one of them because if you can open them up with the run, they won't be able to even stop the pass. They're going to start sending more. They're going to start trying to overload the trenches, try to prevent the run from going. And like Haven said, play action will open up. You'll be able to get things done. But that's offensively. I have one for defense as well. Mm-hmm. And I want to say it's TJ Quinn. TJ Quinn has to be on his game. He has to be. He had a couple plays where this season, and each game he's had at least one where he just there was a lack of communication. And he was out of positioning a little bit, right? And then the play breaks down because a gap opens up. You can't have that against these kind of guys who can run in Notre Dame. You can't. TJ Quinn, TJ Capers, the linebackers have to be on their game and be ready because they're going to come at them. Notre Dame knows that we know what they're going to do. They're not going to come change it, and they're going to go do what's worked for them and hope that it works again.
Yeah.
If we can prevent that run, try to get Riley to throw the ball, that's going to be the linebacker's job.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you. And for me, I think that I'm looking at this game the way I would look at it, with an old school Nebraska team or an old school Oklahoma team, to where when you were playing against Nebraska and when you were playing against Oklahoma and you were playing against some of these power run teams, even Kentucky back in the old days, is that you wanted to figure out a way to get a lead early, because when you could get a lead on that team, it takes them out of what they want to do, because these teams want to control the ball. They want to run the ball. They want to possess the ball, and they want to keep it a low-scoring game and, run that clock down. Brent Key tried to do some of that with Georgia Tech on Saturday. They did everything they could to slow that game down, to possess the ball and keep the ball out of Tyler Shuck's hands. So, to me, it comes down to two things. Get off the field early. If I was Louisville, honestly, I would think about going old school Bobby Petrino with it. I may want to take the ball first, just so I can get the ball and try to get a lead. Because I think that if Louisville can get a lead, if they can get a 10-point lead in this game, especially
put them on their back heels. If you can put Notre Dame on their back heels at home,
and you force Riley Leonard to have to pass the ball, and you can let loose on Ashton Gelati and Tramel Logan and set them dogs off on them, I think that completely changes the complexity of this game. So I think getting on top early, I think is huge. Go ahead, Roman.
I was gonna say, I think that takes me back to what the point Haven's making. For that to work, you got to run the ball. You have to keep the ball. You have to have a longer time of possession if you want to force the opposition to throw the ball.
Yeah.
Assuming you have a lead.
Yeah.
You got to run the ball.
I agree. I mean, because that was one of the things that I was discouraged with in the game last Saturday with Georgia Tech was that Louisville could not get off the field on third down. Like the Georgia Tech, they didn't score a lot of points, but they had several drives where they got at least a couple of first downs, and they were running that play clock down to under 5 seconds every snap.
Every single time.
So every time they had the ball, it seems like they had a 6 or a 7 or an 8-minute drive, which is why Louisville only had, I believe, 7 possessions that whole game against Georgia Tech on Saturday, which is why it's impressive that they only had 7 possessions and still ended up with 31 points.
46 offensive plays.
I mean, it's crazy.
Crazy.
Like you've got to be able to get off the field on third downs. You can't allow Riley Leonard to get any sort of confidence with getting these completions. If Louisville's defense can get off the field on third downs and Louisville can find a way to get up, if they can get up 10 points in this game, I feel like the floodgates could open, because now you're going to take Notre Dame out of their identity. And then once they're out of their identity, you have to go out there and you force them to pass the ball. I think that you can really have an opportunity to put up and make some impressive things happen in South Bend. So,
Bingo.
Those are kind of my keys for the game. But I tell you what, fellas, let's go ahead, make our picks. We're going to start our college football pick segment. So, of course, y'all know we always like to start out with the local games. And, of course, we've been breaking down this Louisville-Notre Dame game. So I want to start with that one. So, give me a score, give me your thoughts on how it's going to go, your players of the game, all of that. And just in terms of what we're looking at with ESPN Bet right now, Notre Dame is a 6-point favorite with a 45.5 for the total on there. So, Roman, what are you thinking about this one? Notre Dame laying the 6 at home. I
don't think Notre Dame covers that 6, obviously. I think Louisville gets the win here. And I do like the over as well. If this game goes best case scenario for us, I think we could get like a 31-17 win, 35-17 win, kind of in that range there. Assuming it's, both teams kind of start off slow in the trenches and the battle works out for both defenses, right? As the game progresses on, I think we prevent those big long drives. They punt more than we do. We put points on the board. I like us to win in that nearly 2 touchdown range.
Okay. Haven Harrison.
But we definitely go over.
Like the over.
I like it.
I love it.
You know what? Vegas is good for a reason. And they have Notre Dame a 6-point favorite for a reason. So with that being said, and which is a 45-point total, right?
45.5, yes.
45.5. I like that. I think that's about right. I think it's going to be about 45 points total scored in this game. I think Vegas is wrong on who's going to win the game. I think the game's going to be close at first, kind of like we saw at Georgia Tech. I would not be surprised if Notre Dame hyped up with the crowd. They need this victory if they want to have any shot at making the playoffs. They have to have this win. We're maybe one of the best wins they have left in the season, so they desperately need this win. The crowd's going to be hyped. Everybody's going to be into it. I would not be surprised if Notre Dame goes up by 1, maybe even 2 scores until we settle things down. I think talent will win. Louisville 31-14.
There we go. I like it. For me, I definitely think this is going to be the Tyler Shuck coming out party. I think that unfortunately only the people on Peacock will be able to see this party, but they'll at least get the stats and we'll get to see the highlights later on, unfortunately, because they decided to go on Peacock. But no, I think that this is going to be the Jeff Brom tight end game. I think that Jamari Johnson Mark Redmond are going to have huge games, kind of like we saw with Miami last year. We have not seen much with those two tight end sets. I think we're going to have a lot of the heavy personnel where we go with the two wide receivers, two tight ends. We're going to split out Redmond. We're going to split out Jamari Johnson, and we're going to use those seam passes because those are the most difficult plays to stop. While I think that that stud Morrison, the stud cornerback, is going to be busy trying to watch Ja'Cory Brooks. I think that leaves an opportunity for those tight ends to make some big plays in this game. So this is a Jeff Brom special. This is where Jeff Brom shines in the big games, in the spotlights. He's been saving up everything for this game. And I think that you're going to see that. I'm glad that Louisville had some of the issues and the errors that they did against Georgia Tech because Brom is going to be a menace in trying to make sure that that does not happen in this game against Notre Dame because he believes that his offensive plays, if ran properly, cannot be defended. So I think we're going to see a couple of those Brom specials. I think one of the tight ends get into the end zone early. I do think that Louisville gets Notre Dame behind. They have to panic a little bit. Give me the Cardinals, 38-14. I think that Louisville is probably up maybe, 10 points, maybe a little bit more at the half. But I think in the second half, it starts to get away from Notre Dame as they get a little bit more desperate trying to pass the ball. So give me the Cardinals in that one. I just don't think that Notre Dame can score enough points, and I believe in this Louisville offense. I don't think we've seen anything from the tight end room as of yet, and I think that's been by design. But I think Jeff Brom does unleash those guys on Saturday.
There you go.
All right. So let's go ahead. Let's go to Ole Miss. We're going to Oxford. The most hated Kentucky Wildcats going on the road, 2-2, which is what we all expected for them to be. Just pitiful and not really knowing who or what they are. They're down there in Oxford. Ole Miss is a 17.5-point favorite. 52.5 is the total on there. What are you guys thinking on this one? Haven Harrington with that 17.5 for Ole Miss. What are you thinking?
Yeah, give me Ole Miss, and I'm taking all those points because Ole Miss is going to light the scoreboard up. I mean, Ole Miss has been unstoppable all season long.
They have been impressive.
And they have been super impressive. Kentucky has a great defense. I think Kentucky will be able to slow them down, and Kentucky will give them fits. But Kentucky's offense just can't match that firepower. And eventually, their defense will get tired of being on the field, chasing those wide receivers all over the place. So, yeah, just going to I'm going to take Ole Miss in the 17.
Okay. I like it. Roman, what are you thinking on this one? Ole Miss with laying the 17.5, 52.5 is the total.
I like it. I think they lay the 17. I don't think they go over.
Okay. So you're taking the 17.5 and the under on that?
Yep.
Okay. For me, give me Ole Miss. I just think that the Wildcats, I don't know what Georgia was doing, and I don't know why Georgia allowed Kentucky to stay in that game. Kentucky came back last week. They were not overly impressive in their victory last week. I think that Ole Miss just has too much offense, and Lane Kiffin, the Lane train, is always going to try to run up the score any chance he gets. So give me Ole Miss. I'm laying those 17.5, and I'm taking the over. I just don't think that Kentucky can keep up on there. The other games are on the schedule that I definitely wanted to ask you guys about. Alabama, Georgia. We know that's the big game of the weekend. We have Georgia on the road in Tuscaloosa. Georgia is a 2-point favorite on the road. The first time since, I believe, 2006 that Alabama's a home dog. I believe it's the first.
That's crazy.
Since Nick Saban's first year, as the coach, Alabama is a underdog at home. So Georgia laying 2 on the road in Tuscaloosa. What are you thinking about this one, Roman?
I don't know what to think about that Georgia offense. There hasn't had a whole lot of consistency.
Yeah.
I want to almost even say the word overrated, but I'm not going to go there yet. Give me Alabama. Give me Alabama at home. Give me Milroe to shock the world.
Wow.
What?
Nice. Oh, and the total was 48.5, by the way.
I like
What
that
are you
over.
thinking? You like the over? Okay. Haven Harrington, what are you thinking?
This game is coming out to be maybe like one of those old school SEC slobber knockers, where it's literally just defensive struggle. Maybe not quite on par with that horrible LSU Alabama Iron Bowl game from 2008 to 2006, where about that was like the greatest game ever. It was like 6-3 or something crazy. I would not be surprised to see a defensive battle break out. But you know what? I think Bama's going to do it. I think Bama's going to put an upset in a close one. Yeah. Georgia's offense hasn't really looked as sharp as it has in season past. The defense is there, but the offense hasn't looked as sharp. I think Georgia strike first. Bama's going to be slow to warm up. They're going to catch a full head of steam. And at home with the place rocking on Saban Field, give me Bama the close one.
Well, what I'm going to say to both of you is not so fast, my friends. I'm telling you this. Georgia is they're number 2 right now, but they're number 2 for a reason. And I feel Kirby Smart has the coaching advantage. Kalen DeBoer this is the first big game that he has been in as the as the Alabama coach. I know he went up there and took care of business. It was in Wisconsin. This is a completely different beast, a completely different animal. We have seen Georgia go out there and sleepwalk through Kentucky and then go out when it's actually time to turn the lights on and play big time. Carson Beck is a legit quarterback. They have big-time weapons. I was not super impressed with what I saw out of Alabama. Yes, they went out there and kind of beat down Wisconsin, but Wisconsin, at least early on, looked like they were going to be able to give Alabama some issues until the quarterback went down with the injury. So give me Georgia. I'm laying those 2. I think the Dogs get it done. I think they go into Tuscaloosa and knock them off. I do also, like Roman said, I do like the over in that one. So go ahead and give me the Dogs. I'm going to go ahead and put them Crimson Tide to bed. So that's
fair.
the way I'm rolling that one.
I got your shot.
Hey, I got a curveball for y'all on this one. I want to see what y'all think about this one. Now, this is like a test. This is a test. So Stanford Cardinal coming off their upset victory over Syracuse, where they went out there and put a whooping on Cal McCord in Syracuse last week, which I thought was a very impressive win. Well, now they have to travel to Death Valley in the most ACC game ever as the Stanford Cardinal take on Clemson. Clemson is a 21.5-point favorite in this game at home in Death Valley with an over-under of 57.5. That seems like a lot of points, and
that's
that
a lot of disrespect.
Like that 21-point favorite. What do you think about that one, Haven Harrington? What do you think about that? I just saw that and I had to ask about this.
They are disrespecting the greatness it is to Stanford Cardinals. Disrespecting them. And I understand why, because after Clemson got destroyed by Georgia, they've been on a tear and it's been obliterating everybody they played. Just mollywhopping everybody. And they're going to mollywhop Stanford too. Yeah, give me the points. Because they're going to score all them points against Stanford. I mean, let's be honest. Stanford beat Syracuse, but Syracuse outplayed them. Syracuse just couldn't get out of their own damn way. That's why they lost the game. It was all turnovers and penalties. Syracuse gave Stanford that game. It was obvious watching the game that Syracuse was the better team. Stanford has made less mistakes than Syracuse.
I like
Clemson's going to beat that ass.
Okay, Roman, what are you thinking? That 21 and a half. What you thinking about that?
Give me Stanford to cover that 21 and a half. They're going to shock the world, Haven. They're going to shock the world and prove they belong in this conference.
I like it.
That's a lot of shocking. I mean, scoring on Syracuse is one thing. They kept turning the ball over and kept throwing interceptions to you. doing that against Clemson, that's completely different.
Give me Stanford to cover the 21.5. They're going to go out there. They're going to lose by 18 or 17. They're going to get the job done, a late field goal cover.
You know what? I'm right there with you, Roman. I think Stanford covers that. I don't think Stanford will win the game, but I think that game is going to be a lot closer than what people think. Stanford's playing good,
the 14
solid
range.
Yeah. I mean, I
It'd
think
be
they're a
close for
good,
the first
solid
quarter.
football team. I'm not buying in this Clemson revival. Like, they haven't really gone out there and done it against anybody with a pulse. So, save me this Clemson is now we're back after getting beat 70-0 by Georgia. So I'm not buying it. So give me Stanford, give me the Cardinal. Well, fellas, I know we are up against it. Thank you so very much. It has been a wonderful show today. Big shout out and thanks once again to the Louisville First Radio Network for everything that you do. Haven Harrington, thank you so much. Roman Kelly, thank you as well. And you know what? Go Cards.
Go Cards.
And we out of here, baby. There we go. Good job, fellas.